Hello and welcome. Today we have with us Dan Van Zandt, who is the founder of Flexibility Research, where he focuses on translating the best current science into clear, pragmatic training principles that coaches and athletes can apply immediately to develop functional range of motion without wasted effort. And that's why I am so very excited to talk to him today and to bring him to the Circus Science Symposium. So welcome, Dan.
Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here. So yeah, thank you for asking me to take part.
Awesome. So I want to start with kind of a basic question that I think really
Mm,
helps us understand a little bit about who you are and why flexibility training is so
mm.
cool.
Yeah,
So what started your interest in this? Why did you go down this awesome rabbit hole and what's kept you curious or what's making you excited about it now?
sure. So I got my start in flexibility through the martial arts. I went to my first karate class when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. So I'm not trying to give my age away here. I've been doing this for about 40 years now. I fell in love with the high kicks, but flexibility never came easily to me. So I always struggled with that. But I think I was really lucky because I had instructors who were both physically talented and also
Mhm.
scientifically literate. So many of them had degrees in like exercise science, physical education, and they brought
Oh,
that knowledge to the dojo. So I learned very early on that flexibility is not this optional extra, right? It's
yeah.
central to what we were doing, and really was the key to unlocking doors to the things that we dreamt about doing with our bodies. Is the way I like to say it. So after about 10 years of study and practice and trial and error, I was finally able to do the splits, which was key to doing the high kicks.
All right.
By that point, it was like the mid 1990s. I was in my mid teens and I'd become quite good at using that scientific knowledge and practical experience to guide other people through their own struggles with flexibility. And that's something I've continued to do for like over 30 years now. What keeps me kind of excited about it is there's a quote that I like, and it's by one of my heroes, Carl Sagan, and he said that astronomy is a humbling and character building experience. And I think the same can be said for flexibility. It's this the sense that flexibility training resembles the solving of like a living puzzle, and the pieces look familiar from one person to the next. We all have muscles and connective tissues, habits of tension and patterns of protection, but the configuration is never the same. Right? Every new student presents a different arrangement of like their history, their hopes, their constraints, their goals, and even within the same individual, things change over time. Right? We all get injured. We find new passions that demand ranges of motion that maybe we once thought were irrelevant.
Yeah.
And aging, right, introduces its own challenges that we have to learn how to navigate. So, for me, that flexibility puzzle is never static, right? It's always changing. So that's what keeps me excited.
Oh, that's so great. It's that individualization of
Mm,
it is
sure.
really is it's really fascinating. It's not just a one size fits all. Like that's
Yeah.
quite fun. And to be doing it so long and still have that passion is amazing. So we're so
Yeah.
glad you're doing it.
Thank
So why do you think flexibility might be important in circus arts? What's the connection? Why are you here?
you. Yeah. So I think flexibility is important in any discipline or training program whenever we're asking our bodies to do things that sit outside the typical activities of our day-to-day lives. But for circus arts in particular, flexibility is about much more than this pursuit of making really impressive shapes with our bodies, right? I think flexibility defines the what we call the movement envelope, or the
Mm,
physical space in which we can exert force and really allow those techniques to become artistic expressions instead of just simple raw like physical effort. When we develop flexibility with intention, we change our tissues and range of motion, yes, but we also change our relationship with sensation and discomfort.
mm,
And there's plenty of research showing that targeted exercises can expand range of motion through, mechanical adaptation, also through an increased willingness to tolerate stretch. Um, and that's important for circus arts because this discipline often asks the body to work close to its limits. And those limits are not only physical, right? They're emotional as well. So I think flexibility training becomes part of a longer story about sustainability in training. It allows performers to move with efficiency. It helps them recognize and manage that cumulative load that builds up over years of training or sometimes months, depending on how intensely you're training. And I think it offers a path towards careers that last a longer time because circus artists are choosing, preparation, they're choosing patience, and they're choosing respect for their bodies. That's what I think.
Oh my gosh, I love this corollary to the mental health side of things and
Mhm.
the holistic approach to this flexibility training that is just about the
Yeah,
trained whole individual. Oh, I love it. Okay, this is very exciting. All right, moving on because we could just go into this rabbit hole all day. I was like, oh,
absolutely.
but I can't wait. This is why I'm so excited to get to
Mm.
hear you speak so much more. In your experience, what is the most common misconception about flexibility training that you encounter, whether that's from the rehab world that
Mhm.
I tend to live in, or maybe the coaching world where some of our listeners might live in?
Yeah.
What do you think most people are getting wrong?
Yeah, I think many of us learn or are taught to think about flexibility as like something we work on over here, while strength lives over here. And so we stretch in one corner of the gym, and we lift weights in another. And, you know, it's as if the body, or it's like we think the body experiences these demands in these like tiny separate boxes. But when we really look at it, we start to see that both flexibility and strength are part of the same essential practice, which ultimately is progressive loading. We ask our muscles to experience greater forces when they're lengthened. And it's a process that increases range of motion, strength, and control. So for circus artists in particular, I think that change in perspective can feel transformative. So when they stop chasing flexibility as an isolated goal and they instead weave it into the fabric of their strength work, training starts to make more sense within the body. So like physical effort becomes more purposeful and progress feels, I guess, less like a struggle against limitation and more like a relationship with possibility is the phrase I like to use. And so that integrated approach, oh, knocked my mic. So this integrated approach, I think, leads to sessions that feel more efficient and more respectful of the body's need for safety. And going back to sustainability, like I said before, over time, performers, they move further into the range of motion, yes, but they also inhabit those ranges with confidence, with resilience, and I think with a stronger connection to their own capacity at the end of the day.
So cool. So it's really this idea of it's all part of you making gains, you as a
Uh,
whole person.
yeah, these separations between flexibility and strength and everything else, it's purely artificial. You have to
Yeah.
try and unify everything and integrate everything. I think is where you get the biggest bang for your buck, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like when I was coming up through the circus world or through the gymnastics world as well, it was always like, yeah, we want to get strong, but be careful because we also want to stay flexible, especially the dance world. Because I danced a bit for
Yeah,
a second, and in the dance world, I feel like that's still a struggle they're having is like, oh, you can get strong, but you don't want to get bulky, and that'll limit your range of motion. And it's like exactly what you're saying.
absolutely, absolutely.
They're not
Yeah,
separate. They're not separate.
yeah,
Calm the nervous system down and let it get strong through the full range.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but if there's a small shift in perspective or technique that people might take away just from this brief conversation that may
Mhm.
fundamentally improve their practice,
Mm,
what's the one thing, the only, you
yeah,
only get to say one thing.
just one.
Just one, one.
Got so many. For me, I think it's the realization that flexibility training can be as efficient as we want to make it, right?
Mm,
So there's a quote that I like, and I learned it from a psychologist called Benjamin Hardy, and it's effective is doing the right things, efficient is doing things right. So
mm,
when we train flexibility, most of us, I'd say, already know the broad principles that make an exercise effective. We know that we need to expose our tissues to unfamiliar lengths. We need to stay in those positions long enough to build experience and tolerance, and gradually ask the body to handle greater force and demand. Now we can do that through traditional static stretching. We can do it through strength exercises, and when you look at the research in terms of effectiveness, both of those things are essentially equal.
mm.
Efficiency, I think, changes how we relate to time and effort and kind of the stories we tell ourselves about what progress is supposed to look like. So for me, efficient training is about choosing the exercises that offer the greatest return for the investment we're willing to make. And that meaningful change doesn't always require complexity or very high volume, and we see this all the time on social media. We see
Yes,
flexibility
that's
mobility.
exactly what I was
Yeah,
going to say.
you see like mobility and flexibility coaches sharing their split training routines, and they've got like 20 or 30 different stretches, and that's not really going to work for anyone. What matters in my experience is it far more is consistency and the
Mhm.
courage to simplify your training. So when we understand this, flexibility stops feeling like this long list of obligations that we have to do, and it becomes this deliberate practice in doing what matters and really giving yourself permission to let go of the rest that doesn't serve you.
Yeah, I love that courage to simplify.
Yeah,
I feel like that's what I talk about so much in my clinic, and that's such a beautiful way of saying it. The courage to simplify. It's so scary as someone who's striving, whether that's a recreational level artist or a professional level artist, to not feel like you're missing out or not working hard enough. And it takes courage
yeah,
to
absolutely. I
simplify.
think I don't think enough people have enough compassion for themselves when they're trying to understand this stuff and apply it to their own training. So yeah, absolutely, it takes courage for sure.
Love that. Dan, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you so
No
much
problem.
for taking your time and your spending your brain and time and effort in this incredible field. So, thank you for your deep dives and sharing your knowledge with us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.